Hey, YouTube Picklers, Tony here, coming to you today from Clearwater. What we're going to do today is we're going to do a point breakdown in Project 4.0. What we're going to do with this point is we're going to look at several different aspects of this point. It's a short point, but it's a rich point, if you will, in terms of our ability to look at different parts in it. What we're going to look at in this video is we're going to look at respect the X, and we'll look at the other aspects of this point in subsequent videos. So let's go ahead and get into it. No criticism of any of these players is intended. We're simply using a point for educational purposes, and we appreciate their efforts on the court. Helps us learn from their play. Let's go ahead and break it down. This is a fairly short point, but it illustrates several parts of the game that are important. First thing you're going to see here is a short serve. We're not going to get into that too much. Just wanted to show you that a short serve basically starts the point off, allows the returner to come forward and be closer to the no volley zone line at the time the return is hit. The return is a cross-court return. Even though it's close to the middle line, it's still cross-court. As you can see, the non-server on the serving team comes across in order to execute the third shot. That move breaks the X in the court, and we'll talk about that more in depth in a minute. You'll see how breaking the X can create some issues for the team that breaks the X or doesn't respect the X. Next, you'll see how the return team player, the player that actually hit the return, does a good job here of keeping the servers back. The servers can't move up. And you'll see how the feet of the serving team are exposed, allowing it to be attacked by the return team and keeping them back. At the end of the video, we'll have some bonus material regarding some of the stroke mechanics in these two strokes, and both the third shot executed by the serve team and the punch volley executed by the return team. So stay tuned to the end of the video to see that. Let's look at the point again from the vantage point of respecting the X and see how breaking the X can cause difficulties for the team that does so. Let's first define what we mean by the X and what we mean by respecting the X. Whenever a cross-court shot is hit, basically an X is formed. You can see here the two players that are basically diagonal from each other form an X. When the yellow player hits the ball diagonal or cross-court towards the other yellow player, that forms one line, and then the other two players form a line between them. That's the X. So basically, cross-court shots that cross over this X formation should be generally handled by the player that is on the other end of the line. So basically, the blue handles the blue and the yellow handles the yellow. Going back to the match again, what you'll see is that the return was actually hit along the yellow arrow. The player at the other end of the yellow arrow, which is circled in yellow here, should have handled that shot. But what happened was that the player along the blue arrow came across to intercept the ball. That does a couple of different things. One thing is that the blue player has to basically hit the ball away from her body here. So instead of the ball coming into her body or into her strike zone so that she can execute the shot, she has to take a ball that's away from her and execute a third shot, which is more difficult. The other thing that happens is it creates an open court to the player's left, so behind the player. And that opening then has to be filled by the same player moving back into position, or it can be attacked by the other team. As we run the point, you'll see how the player that has crossed over the X now has to come back into position. So she's moving as the volleyer is hitting the ball, and as she reaches down to hit the shot that's been hit at her feet, she is still moving into position. So by having moved over and broken the X, the player has put herself in a more difficult position to handle the next shot and created a weakness on their side of the court. Let's take a look at some of the stroke mechanics in this point. What we're going to do in this video is we'll look at the stroke mechanics from the third shot. In the next video where we do the analysis of keeping them back and attacking the feet, we'll take a look at the mechanics of the volley. I'm going to zoom in here to the player taking the third shot. And what you're going to see here is that her arm comes into her body. She's executing the shot. She does not have her arm extended, which is how you want to have the arm as you're executing this sort of shot. You don't want to have the arm uncomfortably extended, so you don't want to have it like super tight out there, but you do want to have it in an extended position because you want to have the paddle away from your body as you execute the shot, and you'll see that how that develops here. As her arm isn't extended, you can see that the elbow is right next to her body there. What happens there is it forces that wrist to bend, so that wrist has to basically bend away from the body, which you don't want. You want to keep kind of a straight line between your arm and your paddle. Basically, it's a ball positioning thing that creates this. By being too close to the ball and having that ball up by the grip, you basically are forced into this position to bring your elbow towards your body and bending the wrist back so that you can get a paddle on it, which is not the optimal way to hit the ball. What ends up happening, the paddle's too open as she brings it up. That results in a ball that's too high, and the end result ends up being essentially a pop-up that the serving team can then attack from the no volley zone. So you want to try and keep that elbow away and the arm extended so you can execute better shots. Hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe below and give it a thumbs up. That helps not only you continue receiving this sort of material, but also others being able to access this material. And that's what we're all about, which is growing the sport of pickleball and improving everybody's games. Thanks a lot for watching, and good luck out there.